What is going on, everybody? Welcome to week 10 of college football predictions. And I'm using a brand new mic. So if it sounds a little off or anything, please let me know because, like I said, it's a new mic. And if it doesn't sound right, I'm going to refund it and I'm going to go to another mic. I don't know what happened to my old one. Anyway, last week we finished 3-3 on week 9, so that was back-to-back weeks where, hey, look, we just broke even. Nothing wrong with that at all. You know, we won some games, we lost some games, but we broke even. So that goes and puts us at 28 wins and 23 losses. So it looks like 47 and 29 are a thing of beauty. And I was thinking about this when I was writing this down, the win totals and stuff. That was with me. I think I did not do 2 weeks. So imagine if I would have had those 2 weeks in September and October last year. We have a lot to unpack this week. I have a little bit of a headache, but I'm going to power through it. It's nothing like what I was facing last week. So, Jimmy Boy from Michigan went into discussion about this last week. He gets no love from the NFL. And you're sitting there saying no sevens. Why is he getting no love from the NFL when he's a college coach? Of course he's not getting any love. Well, the NFL pretty much stated that if Jim decides to dash back to the NFL and avoid the NCAA investigation and everything else, that he is not going to be giving a head coaching position. In fact, I don't even think he's even allowed an assistant coaching position, that he will still have to face, I think it was a 6-month to a 1-year suspension with the NFL, depending on what the NCAA, but he cannot just escape. So his door was slammed shut on that. And they were going to give him a $100 million contract over in Michigan. Well, now that has been ripped from underneath his feet. And there's questions that Michigan is looking to depart from him at the end of the season, regardless of whatever happens. It's just a lot of bad things, a lot of speculation, a lot of things are going on. Who knows? There's, like I said, it's a very fluid situation. Everything is changing by the day, by the second, so who knows? All right, moving on. Washington is on the blacklist, guys. I bet on them twice. They won their games, but they did not cover their spreads. And you know how no sevens is. I'll give you 2 tries in a season. And if you can't do it, guess what? You're on the blacklist. So Washington, congratulations. You're on the blacklist with Clemson and Colorado. All right. So Jaden, Heisman watch versus Bama. So there's a lot of Heisman talk going around Jaden Daniel. If you look at the numbers he's posting, even though LSU is, I think, 6-2, 5-2, somewhere around there, he is leading pretty much every stat for QB as far as rushing, as far as throwing, as far as touchdowns. He's up there in the top percentage. And if he beats Alabama, and I'm not saying that he's going to beat them single-handedly. Of course, it's a football team. You got to have 11 players on offense. But if LSU and Jaden Daniels leading the charge, that will post him and vault him up to number 1. Right now, he's number 3 in the pecking list. But that would move him up to number 1. Now, if you listen to week 1, I was mentioning to you, or it might even been, no, I didn't do a week 0. So week 1, I was saying that Jaden Daniels is the long horse in this. And if you bet on him now, $100 is going to pay out $1,000. Now $100 will pay you out like $300, So the odds have definitely changed for that. And I compared him to Joe Burrow, the transfer portal and everything else. And I went through that whole entire spiel in week 1. So I'm not going to go into it any further. But if Jaden and LSU win, he is, a topic to discuss. Now, if he loses, Jaden Daniel, I'm sorry, your chances are gone because nobody gets a Heisman at 6-3 or 5-3, whatever it is. Oregon State loses to Arizona. If you guys watched that late game on Saturday, I could not believe it. Oregon State had control. They were doing well, and bam, they just lost it, man. They not only did they not cover the spread, but they lost the game. And that was part of the parlay along with Washington. We went into a little bit of LSU versus Bama. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Mizzou versus Georgia. So Battle of the East. Georgia played Florida. Georgia blew them out. They came in there ready to play. Mizzou is going to give them the hardest test that they're going to have until they get into the conference. Because I just don't see anybody else that's really going to really give them a hard time. Now you got Ole Miss in there. So don't discount Ole Miss, but it's Mizzou and Ole Miss really, and then after that it's nobody until the SEC championship game in December. So I look for Mizzou to keep this game close right now. When I looked at it, Mizzou was plus 15, and I kind of like those odds because I think Mizzou is going to keep them pretty close. Now, if you remember, LSU played Mizzou, and that came down to the last play of the game for LSU to win that game. They played them really tough. And so if Mizzou can play like that against Georgia, that plus 15 is going to look very favorable for you. All right, moving on to the last notes. Last month of college football. So we are entering November, the first week of November. And guys, man, after this week, I think there's 3 more weeks? That's it? 3 more, I think? 3, 4? I don't know. I can't even count. So don't even ask me. You know how I do my counting on the Craps channel. So let's go ahead and look at our first one. So we have Week 10 and Texas A&M at Ole Miss. Go figure. We were just talking about this game. Ole Miss is -3. This game is going to be really interesting because Ole Miss needs to keep on winning in dominant fashion to keep on going because they can't have a miss. And if LSU beats Alabama and Ole Miss lost to Alabama, that's going to give them a 3-way tie pretty much. And if Ole Miss loses to Georgia, then I think Ole Miss will go down to number 2 and LSU will move up to number 1. It's all sorts of a whole bunch of craziness. The main thing is that what I'm trying to get at is that Ole Miss needs to win this game flat out. They cannot let Texas A&M come in here and squeak out a win at the very last second. This is going to be a very close game. But look at Lane Kiffin to scheme up a really good offensive play against another great offensive-minded coach, against Coach Jimbo. So it's really going to come down to who has the ball last, and I kind of like Ole Miss to keep the momentum going. This is going to be a very close game, and if guys say, look, if you want to fade this, that's perfectly okay. It is at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. But for me, I'm just going to hurry up and get into it because we've been spending a lot of time together so far, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick Ole Miss -3 to win at home. Okay, so we got it on the board. Next up is Ohio State -18.5. I know that looks like a -13.5. I'm sorry about making that more clear for you. They're playing at Rutgers, and I know what you're thinking, oh man, this is going to be a blowout game. It might be a blowout game. Now, Ohio State was just ranked in the first CFP polls as number 1. They leapfrogged Georgia. Now, this is my thinking, and I could be completely wrong here, but Ohio State is finally number 1 in a very long time, because it was Georgia and Alabama for the longest time, always ranked as number 1. So Ohio State's got a lot to prove that they deserve to be number 1. Ohio State has got to go out there and just beat the brakes off of Rutgers. They cannot sit there and let them even sneak by in garbage time. If Ohio State comes out and they play like they did last week, this should be a pretty open and shut game come halftime. I'm really not going to break into it. Also, look at Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I really like watching that guy. The past 2 years, this guy, I can't wait to see him on Sunday. He's already a Sunday player playing on Saturday. So, and he's a dark horse for the Heisman. And honestly, I really feel that he deserves the Heisman because, I mean, you don't see receivers like this all the time. I mean, you see a great quarterback almost year in and year out in college, but you don't see dominant wide receivers like this every single year. I know we've been having our case with Jordan Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Jaden Waddle from Alabama, Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave last year. I know they have those great receivers, but I mean, just look at what Marvin Harrison has done. I mean, 2 different quarterbacks, and he's still delivering, great results, great catches. I mean, the man is really awesome. I mean, if you have not checked him out, Marvin Harrison Jr., really, really great player. Look for him to have another great Saturday. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Let's go ahead and take Ohio State minus 18.5. Okay, so there it is. Ohio State minus 18.5. Next up, hopefully this microphone is sounding halfway decent. Next up is LSU at Alabama. Every year I do this game, so guys, just get over it. Okay, so LSU is at Alabama. LSU has won more games at Alabama than they have against Bama at their own home stadium in Death Valley. The question that you guys need to ask yourself, or I need to ask myself, is that LSU has a great offense. They are just blowing the doors off of some of these offensive records in the SEC. Their cornerbacks is the weakest link. And now if their cornerbacks can just stop Alabama 3 or 4 drives, they're going to win this game. If LSU wants to go to the SEC championship and then possibly compete for a playoff berth as a dark horse for the SEC, they need to win this game. Alabama, on the other side, has a quarterback that is coming up. I was getting ready to mention his name. I completely forgot his name just now. But he's coming up. He's doing a lot better. And Alabama is a team of 2 halves. They have the first half, which looks like they didn't even show up for the game. It looks like they're still hungover from last game. And then you get into the second half, and then Coach Saban just rips into them. And they come out with their hair on fire, and man, they play a hell of a game in the second half. These 2 teams hate each other. I mean, it's a very, very physical game, and they talk about taking some serious ice baths after this game. There is a lot to play for. Basically, whoever wins this game, and depending on what happens to Ole Miss, because Ole Miss is eventually going to trip themselves up eventually, because I don't see them winning out the rest of their season. This is going to come down to who is going to go to the SEC West as champions. And I think, believe it or not, I think this is the last year that this is going to be the last SEC West and SEC East. After next season is Oklahoma and Texas is coming, I believe. And that's when they're going to do the best 2 teams in the SEC. So that's going to be really interesting. So you might have 2 West or 2 East teams next year. So look for somebody, one of these storybook programs to close out a great tradition for the West and represent the West one last time. And for me, I'm an LSU boy, so you know where I'm going. I'm going to take LSU +3, and I think it's going to be a close game like it was last year, and let's lock it in. Okay, so it is all locked in. And that was at 6:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have a lot of games at 11 a.m. Notre Dame at Clemson. Guys, I was going to bring this up in the notes. I decided to save it for now. Dabo Swinney, as much as he has won for Clemson, there is talks of him being removed from that program. Can you believe that? Did you ever think we will have that discussion that old Dabo would be asked to leave and be fired from Clemson? I want that to sink in. Fired from Clemson. He put Clemson on the map. He helped put ACC on the map. ACC was not a football conference. And that's the reason why he did so well. And because he was doing so well, that's the reason why Mac Brown was sought after. That's the reason why Jimbo Fisher was sought after. I had to go to Florida State. There's just a lot of great coaches that came. Now, I know you got Bobby Bowden and all that with Florida State before that, but I mean, just think about what he has done to bring back the ACC. And I know he's old school, and hey, look, he might not get any player transfer portals or anything else. And if that's going to be the death cross of him, it might be. I mean, I don't know. But to have where Clemson is on the verge of removing Dabo Swinney, and what's that going to tell you? Because there's been long talks that when Nick Saban leaves Alabama, that he's going to go to Alabama. Well, now it doesn't even look like there might not even be a home for Dabo. Because at least with Jimbo Fisher, when this was happening to Jimbo, like it is right now with Clemson, Jimbo was thrown a lifeline because of how desperate Texas A&M was. And they knew that LSU wanted Jimbo Fisher. Thank God we did not get him. We ended up getting Ed Orgeron at the last second because of the stupid agent, or I should not say stupid, I'm sorry. I should be saying for the very lucky of us that their agent was as greedy as a whore on a Las Vegas Sunset Strip. And they Texas A&M went ahead and paid out that much money to get Jimbo Fisher away from Florida State, and we lost out, and we ended up getting Ed Orgeron. Whether or not if that was a great trade or a great deal, personally, I think it was, because it's not about what happened and the fallout and the disgrace of Ed Orgeron at LSU, but it's he brought us a national championship. We got Joey B in there, a ton of great NFL talent all came. Still have a lot of Ed Orgeron players with LSU right now who are graduating as juniors and seniors. Getting back to Clemson, look at this might be the twilight years of Dabo. We might not see him next year, so don't be shocked that No Sevens is giving you a kind of an inside look. Moving on to, though, who do we like for this game, though? Come on, No Sevens. Let's just go ahead and just lock it in. I like Notre Dame to keep on rolling. Notre Dame, in my book, should be number 2 in the nation because they just barely lost to Ohio State. And I understand that they lost another game, so yeah, maybe they shouldn't be number 2. Maybe it should be like number 5 or number 6. I just don't think. I think people are still underrating Notre Dame and what they're doing, and everything is still rolling for them. They're still playing for a New Year's Six game. And I really think that they're going to really keep on competing and get those style points. And Notre Dame isn't done yet. I think they might win the rest of the season. I know they got some other key teams coming up, but it doesn't look good for Dabo because I don't see Dabo winning this. And that's where I was getting at the whole entire discussion. So let's go ahead and lock it in. Notre Dame -3. All right, so we got them on the board. Oregon. They jumped up in the rankings, guys. I don't know if you saw that or not. They are right behind Washington. And the only reason why they're right behind Washington is because Washington beat them outright when they played them. Now, if they were probably to play again, Oregon would probably win that game. Cal is playing really good. Don't discount Cal and the way they're playing and everything else. But guys, the way Coach Dan Lanning is coaching these guys, they're very physical. They almost look like an SEC team, the way that they're playing. Very, very good football. They're just continuing to get better and better. Washington is kind of trending down, and I really look forward to seeing Oregon just keep on rolling. I know they're playing against Cal. It's -24. I think that's a bit too high. Could I take Cal plus 24? I probably could, but I just don't know if Cal's going to bring it or not. So I'm just going to make the really simple pick, guys. Really, really simple. Oregon, money line. I think they're just going to win this. I think they're going to keep on winning. A lot of great stuff. Looking forward to that game against Oregon State coming up in a few weeks. But let's go ahead and lock it in. Oregon, money line. All right, next up is Florida State at Pitt. And I made sure this week, that we could read Pitt, and it's not Penthouse. That was funny. Notre Dame, what was it? Pitt at Notre Dame last week, and it looked like Penthouse. Man, you guys were killing me with some of the comments. All right. So Florida State, you guys have been telling me, you're taking the easy way out, no sevens, to keep on picking the money line. And hey, look, the money line works. I could take the money line on this one too. But I like the way Notre Dame played Pitt. I really like how Florida State's continuing to keep on progressing. They're doing a really good job. They need to keep on winning. They need to keep on winning by a dominant fashion right now because they're a solid number 4. But that number 4 spot isn't secure. It's only the first week of the CFP rankings. So look for Florida State to come out with guns blazing, high octane offense. And to me personally, I think Florida State has a viable case to be number 1 in the nation. They played really good teams. They beat LSU in week 1. They had a struggle against Boston College, but and they struggled against Clemson. But Clemson, that was a really, really tough game. They went in there and they finally beat them. It's been a couple of years or longer, maybe a decade since they beat Clemson. But Florida State needs to win this game convincingly. So I really feel good against Pitt. So I'm going to do something a little bit different than I have been doing, and hopefully it doesn't bite me in the butt. I'm going to take Florida State plus or minus 21.5. I wish it was plus 21.5. God, I'll take that pick all day long. In fact, I'll even take a loan out on it. But Florida State minus 21.5. Let's lock it in. And if I was to do this at the casino, guys, I would buy down that half a point to minus 21. And let's lock it in. All right, so a quick recap. We're going to go with Ole Miss minus 3, Ohio State minus 18.5, LSU plus 3, Notre Dame minus 3, Oregon money line at 4:30, okay? 4:30 p.m. Central. That's a weird time, so keep that in mind. And this one is 2:30 p.m., not 3 o'clock, so keep that in mind too if you guys are going to watch those games. That's Central Standard Time. Now it's for our easy parlay. If it was not for Washington and Oregon State, we would have won that parlay last week. Oh, man, as I digress. So easy parlay this week. We're not trying to do a 6-7 team parlay. We're just going to do a quick 4-team parlay. Ohio State minus 18.5 against Rutgers. That's who we really like. Air Force, money line. They play Army. Look for a really good game. Air Force is ranked number 25th in the nation, guys. They are a very silent team, but they are having a great year. Florida State minus 21.5. That's right. We just talked about them at Pitt. They need to keep winning. Oregon money line. We talked about that game. And guys, that is who I like for the easy parlay. And I didn't keep you guys too long. We ran over a little bit. But hey, look, we won in October. We won in September. We are doing good. So we just need to keep on winning and go from there. And it all comes down to this month if we're going to have another successful all 3 months that we win. So guys, good luck at your picks. Comment below on who do you like and who do you fade. It doesn't even have to be the teams I pick, just whoever you like, to help out the community. And No Sevens is going to see you on week 11 and getting closer to the end of college football, guys. So good luck out there. Bet smart, bet with your heads, and I'll talk to you next week.